So we'll do our best.
Yeah, that would be great. Sorry, Miles, I missed what you said.
No, I was just saying it's ironic that we're having the one computer that skipped out be the one that records everything, but that's okay.
I know.
It's ironic, but it's not unusual.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for that. Any other commissioners have anything they'd like to comment or report on right now?
I feel like I've seen a little indicator on my screen in previous meetings that the meeting's being recorded, but maybe it wasn't by time.
Upper left-hand corner.
Yeah, but that's been done before. Who was doing it?
Oh, in past meetings?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was me.
Like I can do it right now to my private computer, but.
We are recording right now.
Yeah.
But the previous meetings, David, this is Tanya, they were in Skype. So they are in a Skype folder, but I could never get them offloaded off of my computer. But I do have them because at the time, I think it was undecided. So thanks for letting me know.
Okay,
Was there a recording of the last meeting in November?
That was a Zoom meeting. Did
Was
you
it
record
recorded?
that one?
It was a Skype meeting. I
Oh.
think maybe the first or second.
No, in November, Tanya, that was a Zoom meeting.
I don't remember using it. I'm happy to look it up.
okay.
But
that-
I don't record
believe it
last
was
month.
recorded by us, by staff.
No,
Right.
you are correct. I did not record last month's.
Okay. Final chance for commissioner reports or comments? Okay. Bill Watson is not here. That's unfortunate. So he is in his last few days as one of our council members. And I don't know yet, maybe Lincoln, you know who will be our contact with the council? Have they selected someone for that?
Not until January.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, right, when they're officially on board. Okay. All right.
Both,
It'll be a surprise.
I was advised that Cindy Wolf may be attending this meeting today.
Oh, okay.
Just for informational
Oh,
purposes.
sure. Okay.
She was at the last meeting too.
Okay. Then we'll move on from council to a financial update.
I am here.
Oh, that's Cindy Wolf with the long phone number.
Okay, 206. All right.
Welcome, Cindy.
Yeah, welcome, Cindy. Financial update, Judy or Doug?
You want me to go, Doug?
Why don't you take it away?
Okay. Well, I sent out an updated, revised 2020, 2021 expenditure and acquisition plan, just the pages that were edited by the auditor. And as we expected, they were minor edits relating to payroll, insurance, and she did, for one fund, she adjusted beginning cash. This was part of the county budget that was passed on December 8th. I don't have the exact ordinance number. I think it's available now. I didn't at the time that I prepared these sheets. Are there any questions on these revised numbers? Did you notice anything? Did anyone notice anything they had a question about?
I appreciate all the notes at the bottom of the page.
Thank you, Krista. You helped me. You and I crafted those a couple months back.
Oh, good for us.
Yes, makes sense.
You know, the one really positive thing to note on that is on the second page at the conservation area fund on the beginning operating cash, you'll notice that, you know, we are up about 1.3, close to $1.4 million for this year. Obviously, we've had a very positive year rate-wise, and we probably will end up somewhere between, I'm not exactly sure, Judy, somewhere between 5.2 and 5.5 million in
Right.
revenue.
I just sent Lincoln an updated spreadsheet this morning. Shoot,
Yeah, it looks like we're at 5.4.
we're at
basically
5.4 right now.
halfway through December, so.
We do note also that we are keeping the amount of REIT at $3 million. It may be something that we want to visit early on in the next year, because it seems to me that given the circumstances, that we might want to raise that to 3.5 or 4 million. Because it does, under the current circumstances, it seems like it's a low number. Although Sandy may have some idea as to whether or not there's
So I would
enough real
recommend,
estate.
I feel like we're coming to a cliff because inventory is so low, and I think we're going to see a continued drop, as you already saw kind of at November. I think December will be probably down and moving forward. So I don't know what will kick in to change that trajectory. I'd feel more comfortable keeping it at 3. And if it's more, then that's a bonus.
That makes
Okay,
sense. Actually, December is going to exceed November, but I
Okay.
don't think we'll ever see the numbers that we saw in September and October again. So I also sent you a summary of the REIT through November, along with the graphs for the last 10 years. And then the projections, we're probably going to hit the average. It's probably going to be 5.5 for the year would be my guess. Well, it's going to be more than that, because I think we're at 5.4 right now today, or 2 days ago. The other thing I sent out was an updated projection sheets for both the Conservation Area Fund and the Stewardship and Management Fund. And I incorporated the amended 2021 budget, and then we've got the projections through 2026 on there.
And
So-
Jody, that's very helpful, that we want to keep track of going out to 2026. I think that's really important, and I certainly appreciate you preparing these documents for these meetings.
Doug, I would say in response to the question of raising the REIT budget number, we'll almost certainly be doing an amended budget in February or something like that. So we can look at it at that point and see. You know, I understand Sandy's concern, but you know, we are 3 million is so far off where we are right now. It would definitely make sense to take another look at it at that point.
Okay, so we will bring that back February-ish, perhaps. Any other, excuse me, any other questions or comments on finances?
I just wanted to reiterate the hope that in January that we can have a further discussion about a higher number being distributed to the stewardship endowment.
Right. I think that's been noted, but thank you for mentioning it again.
Yep.
Some of this might tie into the vaccine. If we actually get anything out here and people get vaccinated, we may find families moving back to their main homes wherever they have moved from. So there could be a bigger inventory come up, but it's hard to say. I'm going to move on now to the director's report, if there's no other discussion on finances. Okay, Lincoln.
Sure. So we've got a few things going on. We'll see if we make, I think we'll make at least one of these by the end of the year. It's always kind of an open question. Right now, actually, one of the issues is the fact that the title companies are pretty jam-packed with other business. I see that Vicki Edwards is on the phone. She's the conservation director for the trust. And so we've got a couple of projects going with them. I mentioned to her that I think probably we may be too nice to get the closing agents to actually do stuff ahead of other people who have a lot more on the line. So at any rate, the Spencer Spit donation is one that I do think we're going to conclude by the end of the year. I think that'll be recorded. All the paperwork is done on that. That's, if you remember, the 10-acre property that Rick Strawn is donating, together with the other one that we already purchased earlier back in 2019. So we'll have that 20-acre piece that's north of the park. I've already had a couple of discussions with state parks about managing that, which is our intent, that they could have a trail. There's already kind of a social trail that goes over to the property. But they can formalize that and police it for us, since they're over there all the time, and it's harder for us to get to that preserve. So I think that'll work out. The neighbors were really concerned that if state parks owned it, they might develop it and put not develop it with houses, but maybe put camping and maybe have more water use up there, which is it's a difficult area for water availability. So none of that is going to happen. It'll be a great spot. We'll have to figure out what to do with the cabin that we found out there. That seems to be a recurring theme for us, given that the next piece, the Barker donation, also has a little cabin on it. And that one also is in poor repair, so we'll have to do something about it. Kind of a funny story. I was out there with the appraiser for the Barkers earlier this week, and he was looking at it and said, no one would really use it. And then he said, unless maybe you live out on Three Corner Lake Road or something. That's where I live. It was entertaining.
Yeah.
That one, I do think we may or may not make that one by the end of the year. The issue there is that we're also going to do a conveyance of a conservation easement to the Preservation Trust on that property and on the Taylor property. If you remember, they are paying $850,000 for that conservation easement. But obviously we have to have this property conveyed before that happens. So we should wrap that up in January at the latest. Davis Bay Farm is another one. And the trust really is taking the lead on that. So they're in conversations with the family. That's the one on Richardson, Marsh, and Lopez. And that will be direct deeded to us, along with a conservation easement going to the trust. So again, probably January is my guess, but we should be wrapping all of these up no later than the end of January.
Any questions or comments on Lincoln's update? Okay. That was easy. Stewardship. Beautiful stewardship report again. I love all the photos. Any questions for stewards, or do any of the stewards want to do a summary or update to the report? Or end of year comments, perhaps? Wow. Excellent. You guys are just a barrel of fun. Okay. One thing I would ask about this report, just as a small suggestion, because some of these, and maybe you do it on purpose, but I wasn't sure. Some are clearly obvious where they are, but for instance, that photo 15 with that beautiful huge fir, maybe we don't want people to know where that is, but I was just curious what island that was on. So, you know, if it's not referenced directly, but there might be, if it's not on a preserve and it's on someone's private land, maybe we don't want to identify that, but. Okay. Outreach and volunteer report.
I had to get to unmute. And I will try to put my video on so you can see me.
Nice.
There's not really much more to add. I'm just working on the end of year review. A lot has happened this year. And so I'll probably do it a little differently, maybe lump them into subjects. I mean, we've had donations, we've had some major projects. So that's what I've been working on, trying to put all that together in the email. It's been the big focus other than, and I do look forward to, I just was reading through the stewardship report, passing the torch. David, someday you and I are going to go and open and close that gate.
Okay.
Tanya, how are you anticipating sending out the end of the year? How are you planning on promoting it? The email list?
Well, the way that I do it, I send it to our email list as well as all the online papers, and I post it on the website, and then a link also on Facebook.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Any comments or questions for Tanya? Oh my gosh, you guys, really.
Well, it is pretty dark out there.
I'm sending coffee out. Well, I won't be chair next month, but I'm
Tanya,
sending
do you want
coffee to everybody.
to tell them how many new buyer packets have gone out?
Yeah.
Like 600? I have a high schooler who's earning hours, and she's,
Oh, nice.
yeah, because we didn't have the information until April, and then putting it all together. So I'd say 200, I'd say at least 600.
Yeah.
In the end, we'll go out. She's still working on Lopez, but we've got San Juan and Orcas.
That's great.
That's a lot of people.
Tanya, in that buyer packet, I don't remember the letter offhand, but is there somewhere that there is an invitation to join our email list?
Mm-hmm.
There is.
Yeah, and I do have, I think I forgot to tell, I didn't email Orcas, but when Peter was here helping the other day, I sent him with business cards. I redid the business cards. And so I think we agreed going forward, you could hang on to those and then make a little note on the back. And I can take those back from you. And as the new buyer packets go out, I'll just slip a business card in each one. It doesn't have to be both of you, you know, we could do one each. As the new buyer packets go out, then folks will have their local commissioners, at least, you know, one of your information and a little note in there. That seemed the easiest as far as personalizing those.
Yeah.
So Tanya, I know we had some online discussion about that. Did we resolve exactly how that's going to work? I mean, I suggested to you, I think that we as commissioners pre-sign the cards and send them to you so that you can slip them in the envelope and send them out. Is that good?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Good. Okay.
You have not sent any of cards. Have you sent cards to Miles or myself?
No, not recently. I don't know if you still have any, but I reformatted them using the template from Avery to make it easier. So I was thinking the next time Amanda came over or somebody went to Lopez, or maybe even me, if I make it over, I'll just bring them with.
Okay, great.
Brian and Sandy, I'll be happy to bring them to you or meet you somewhere or whatever you want to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going back to my note-taking hole.
Anybody else? Okay, now we're going to get into the bulk of the meeting, and we're well ahead of schedule to open up some discussion. Do people want to take a 5-minute break to get more coffee or anything? Otherwise, we'll just kind of move through. We're so far ahead that I suspect we'll be adjourning before 11:30. So
I'm in favor of a break.
excellent, Doug. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll give it you, since we're all so close, let's say at 9:15, I have 9:08 right now, so it's just 7 minutes.
Okay,
Okay, I'm gonna go get coffee.
I have a quick question. Do I pause the recording then? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. I'm not going to go through each of this, not going to go through this line by line, but I do think it's worth noting that obviously this year's been quite a bit different from any other year, and we didn't really know what was going to happen, both in society and with our ability to do our job. But some very interesting things, you know, we I think accomplished a huge amount nonetheless, and also certainly noted that as people were looking for safe places to go, we definitely saw a significant upturn in visitation of preserves, as did the other land managers here and elsewhere. I think it's been pretty remarkable how people have really done more getting outside and just getting back to nature a bit, which has been great, because one of the things I think that we've wrestled with as a public organization is who our constituency is, and that's kind of based on who can get out and visit a preserve, not entirely obviously, but that's a big piece of it. And we've worried, people with who are working with families, it's hard for them to get outside. Well, this year we definitely saw a lot more of those folks out there. So that was a great thing to see. As far as acquisition goes, there are a few things I jumped the gun maybe on a few of those as I just went through with the acquisition report, but more or less we'll have completed each of these. So that's 235 acres that we will have conserved at the end of this year. Some amazing things happened. The Turtleback Edition, worth noting, having a donor show up and give us $2 million to buy a piece of property. That does not happen all the time. So worth reiterating. And more donations, the Rick Strawn piece on Lopez and the Barker's piece at the edge of Beaverton Marsh, all really great acquisitions. So really it's been a productive year in that regard. And as far as money goes, we have definitely still been out there doing what we can do to raise additional funds. Obviously, our partnership with the trust continues on a lot of projects, but we did apply for a number of grants. We did get money. Have not gotten the money for the Channel Preserve just yet. We've got a couple more pieces of paper to get back to the Recreation and Conservation Office, but we got the $1 million for Mount Grant. And then we applied for a number of grants. Cascade Creek, we were successful in getting that money to purchase a water right. And other funds for that, we applied for landscape scale restoration money. We haven't heard, I don't know what the timeline is actually on hearing back from that, but that's something through the Department of Natural Resources, which they encouraged us to apply for Gary Oak restoration. Salmon recovery, we did apply, did not fare well on that one. Community forests, same thing, did the application and didn't rank that high for the properties on the northern part of San Juan. Unfortunately, one of those properties, which was part of that grant process, has now sold. So that one's off the table, at least for now. But all in all, pretty good year. This is a down year for grants for the state. They run on a 2-year cycle. So next year will be another, actually, that's not right. This is not totally wrong on that. We did not have a lot of applications to state programs other than salmon recovery. Just didn't have so good projects really that were fits for those programs. So we will have them going forward, no doubt. And also, if you remember, a lot of the time when we apply for grants, we get a waiver if we've had to move ahead of that process and make the acquisition. So that allows us to apply for these grants after the fact, basically. So we'll see going forward in what happens this year and what we can apply for down the road. On the legal side of things, well, we're not currently in a lawsuit, which is great. The Mount Grant lawsuit was dismissed. Kellett Bluff ended. We did have a lot of activity with public records around those suits and other things. Just a kind of a mountain of public records requests, which is really mirrored throughout other county departments. It's just, and we get a lot of requests. They're very broad, typically. Things like all of my emails forever. I've had that one, I think, 3 times, actually. So far, nothing coming back from that. But it takes us time to go through this. The county has a public records officer. They dedicate a large chunk of their prosecuting attorneys' time to reviewing public records requests. So it's something the county spends a lot of time and a lot of money on responding to. And so we're no different, but we made it through all those. Stewardship, we are doing our monitoring for conservation easements. We have looked at conservation amendments on 2 properties. One we're probably going to go forward on. They're both on Orcas. One is the Stonebridge Farm property. Another one we'll have further conversation about. But so far, so good. I guess I'll throw this open to Aaron. I don't see Charlie on there, but Aaron, your impressions of your conservation easement monitoring season.
Good. I think one thing I've noticed is that some of the owners have elsewhere moved here permanently. Well, perhaps not permanently, but have been at the property since March. So integrating a bit more into the community, which I think is great. You know, I seem to remember that last year we had quite a few property transitions. So some of those new owners, just spending some time helping understand what the conservation easement is. And I guess I'll also say that people have been at their home all year. So there's been a lot of work done, but so far everything is in line. So that's great.
Can I ask you a question? Lincoln, you mentioned 2 easements are being discussed about modifying the easements. Will that be something that comes up for the commission to understand the options and the requests and discuss and decide?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a commission decision, and it has to be signed off on by council also. So far at present, we've had a lot of staff discussion about one of these, and probably we'll go forward with an amendment. The other one, you and I and Brian have talked about this a bit. The one on Schaefer Stretch. Those property owners are purchasing the property. So we'll have to have some discussions about what their proposal is. There's nothing that they're doing currently that's going to require an easement amendment. So we'll have some time to talk about that as the year unfolds. Regarding management plans, this is something we're making a good bit of progress on, completing some, getting updates started on others. So if you remember, this was a concern for us that we had a big backlog of management plans, and we are steadily working our way through this and catching up. So that's great. We opened 2 preserves this year, Channel Preserve and Zylstra, and I would say both of those have just gone exceedingly well, have been very well received by the community. Channel was, I would say not nearly as involved as Zylstra in that there was less to actually do on the ground to open the property. But there was certainly a lot to do in terms of interacting with neighbors and talking to people and really making sure things went smoothly, which they really have. And it's a beautiful preserve. I think everybody's pretty happy with it. So kudos to Amanda on that one in particular. And with Zylstra, we had a huge amount to do. It's a large property. We really had to do a lot of improvements out there, putting parking in, but a lot of trail improvements, a lot of fencing. We had a lot of considerations to make, like about the dam and whether we wanted people walking in that area or where we wanted people to go or not go, and hashed through all those. But Doug and Charlie in particular put in just a phenomenal amount of work to get that place open. That's a really huge accomplishment for us. So that's been great. We did a lot of site planning on Mount Grant. We have not progressed on that for a variety of reasons, but we will be making some headway this year. Hopefully, and that's just really about expanding the facilities we have there for parking and looking at access questions and things like that. So we'll be looking at that this year too. Ecological restoration, we've done a lot. The Salish Seeds operation has been going pretty much full bore. I don't think we've had any interruption with that at all this year. So lots of plugs and bulbs produced, and Eliza always likes to throw in the pounds of seed, which looks like the least impressive thing you can possibly imagine, but 13 pounds of seed is really a huge amount of seed. So great job there. And we also had a native plant sale, which we had to do virtually this year, and brought back 9,000 in revenue. So that offsets our costs for the Salish seeds. Turtleback got a lot of work done. 50 acres of Gary Oak savanna, doing planting underneath in those restoration areas, clearing a lot of Scotch broom, looking at the forest health for that property, kind of in preparation for next stage and what we want to do with forest management there. I don't know, Peter, if you want to comment on that in particular.
Let's see. Oops, sorry. I guess I would just say that, yeah, Rain Shadow Consulting is working on that plan and get their plan this calendar year. I think we'll probably get it early next year, but it's a pretty comprehensive look at the forest conditions across the whole property and management recommendations, which will be sort of rolled into the updated management plan, including some cost estimates.
Great. And we did have crews out there this year. We weren't sure how that was going to work, but we did have Washington Conservation Corps crews and others out doing restoration work and other work through the course of the year too. So that's all things have been rolling along pretty much. In terms of preserve maintenance and management, we extended, or actually we haven't signed that yet, but extended the Kofelt lease with the Lums for another year. That's as the conservation, agriculture, and okay, CART. What does CART stand for? Who knows? Nobody?
I can say, if it's okay, I'm
Go
not
ahead, Kathy.
a conservation agricultural resource team.
Great, thank you. And so Kathy serves on that team. Thank you very much for your service on that. They've been steadily progressing. And as you heard earlier, we've got a public meeting set for them to talk about their results and recommendations. So we'll be doing that at the beginning part of January and proceed from there in terms of figuring out a longer term solution for Kofelt Farm. Other highlights, and obviously I cherry picked very few out of these. There's a lot that happened, but we spent a lot of time on the Zylstra Dam, just trying to figure out what to do. A lot of interactions with the dam safety office and looking at water levels, dealing with our neighbor who we have a dispute kind of over water rights, which we think we have, but he's historically used the water to irrigate fields. That's ongoing. We've actually now at this point contracted or retained an attorney, water rights attorney, to really help us achieve some clarity on that situation. So we'll be working that through this year a bit. But the dam itself, we're keeping the water levels lower, so there's less water actually to work with in terms of irrigation. But that's all because of what the Dam Safety Office requires us to do. This dam was put in, 60 years ago now, and it's been a privately constructed, maintained dam. Well, we're not that. So we have to really adhere to stricter management principles when it comes to it. So we put a lot of work into thinking about that, and there's a lot more to come. Also in preserve management and maintenance, one of the big changes this year with the County Parks Department is that they were closed for camping, and really that's a lot of their revenue. Conversely for us, we had 2 field assistants leave during the course of the year, so we contracted a lot more with county parks staff to do some of our basic maintenance operations. I think that worked pretty well. It was a good synergy there in a difficult year. And last, we do have a project manager for the Beaverton project as we take that one forward and really look at how to do public access. And this is, as you know, a complicated one with a trailhead coming from a town park and a potential boardwalk crossing over a marsh and a variety of other things to consider. So we've got a project manager under contract almost to help us move forward with that work. And we'll talk a lot more about that as the year progresses. Administratively, as always, we just love doing budget after budget after budget. Kind of the nature of our business is we have acquisitions that come up. We have to do amended budgets. So we did 3 this year. And then the 2021 budget, we did last year because the county switched to a 2-year budget cycle, but had to go through an amendment process with that one also. So we haven't seen Judy much except on the screen, but she's been working hard. We know that. Pretty amazing to get all that done. There's just a huge amount of work with each one of those that has to happen. A lot of interaction between us and the auditor staff and council members and all the rest of it. So got it done. And we're in the hiring process for field assistants. We've actually are making offers to 2 people for field assistants. And then for Judy's job, we did have interviews yesterday. Still have been, we really thought we'd have more in the way of applications for that position than we have. So no decisions at this point. We're continuing to advertise.
Wait a
And
minute.
let's see, what else?
Did I miss something? Judy, are you retiring?
Judy is retiring.
Oh, wow.
That's not a well-kept secret.
From me, it is, I guess.
Yeah.
My last day of work will be January 31st.
Wow.
Oh my
Unless-
God.
Unless I file an extension.
I think you should file an extension.
Yeah, I encourage that.
Possibility.
I think it is a better kept secret than we thought, because Sandy, I mentioned it to Sandy in a call.
Sandy didn't know either. Oh,
No.
No, no, I don't think it's been brought up in the meetings.
yeah. Lincoln
I think
sort
I've
of pretended I hadn't said that.
that's right.
We're all in denial.
Right.
We're in total denial. So but we actually have been advertising and trying to do something
Since
to
October.
fill the position.
So can I ask about the advertising? Is it just the normal way of posting, or can we also, like I see things in Orcas Chamber Blast, which goes out to I don't know, thousands or something amount of people, where it's just a blurb, you know, it's not an actual classified for a job, but it says we're looking, are we using some of those other avenues to gain more exposure?
We're using several avenues. I didn't know about the chamber blasts. That might be something we could do.
Yeah. Great
We've
idea.
even had a lot of cooperation with Camp Nor'Wester.
Yeah, I don't know if it brought anything to
Yeah,
you.
well, and that was suggested to me by the Visitors Bureau, who had a similar difficulty trying to fill a position, and they had actually found someone on the Camp Orkila job board. That's how they. So, yeah, tell everyone.
This is
So
gonna set us
Sandy,
back.
just so you know, it's Tanya, that did go out to the chambers when we originally put it out. But I am happy to resend it to them if these interviews don't produce anything.
Okay, got it.
Jim, did you have a question?
I was just gonna say, this is monumental in scope, in that
Well,
Judy's shoes.
Lincoln should
Judy-
also say that the council did approve a position for which we do not have to advertise. It'll be a 0.4 FTE, and I will work 2 days a week through 2021 to help with the transition.
Oh,
And also
okay,
to
well,
work
that-
on special projects, namely for the public records requests system.
well, that helps a lot, but your institutional memory is going to be very difficult to replace. As well as
I'm
your,
not
as well as
moving
your,
off island.
Yeah.
as
We
as
know
well
where
as
she
your,
lives.
as well as your delightful personality.
Well, thank you. I know it's a hard decision, but you know, I have a 90-year-old mother and she's going to be needing me more and more. So that's the other pull.
Yeah. Family first.
So the secret's out. Oh dear. Outreach. We have done a number of things. As always, we got the annual report done. I think it really came out well this year. We did revamp the website also. Huge number of new buyer packets getting mailed out as always, but seemingly a big bump this year. And then we did a review of outreach efforts and opportunities, kind of in conjunction too with the outreach committee that we have. So that's something that we'll want to be talking about more and more this year in terms of trying to figure out new avenues for outreach. One of the things that's definitely popped up this year is doing more video type things. Just not that hard to do, and certainly easy to reach a lot more people than you do with in-person events. So I think that's something we'll be putting more emphasis on. Certainly this year, we'll be thinking about this in the winter and trying to produce some of these probably when we get to springtime. But happy to hear people's thoughts on that also. And just a few miscellaneous things. The Justice, Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion team. Really, Kayla's taken the big lead on that process. It's something that we've had a lot of interaction with the rest of the county, and we've been kind of hoping that the county would have its policy, which we could feed into, but the two haven't really nested together yet. So I think that's something we're hoping to talk with the new council about. We've certainly come up with some recommendations, and it would be great to see the county as a whole really follow through on that, and us to be a part of it. So I think I will stop there. I think that gives you a decent sense of what's happened this year. And we can kind of move on to thoughts for next year.
Lincoln?
Comments on what you've heard so far?
Yeah, a lot of activity, a lot of accomplishments. Great job. I unfortunately haven't seen a copy of your memo. I don't know whether it got lost in my shuffle or I didn't get it, but could you make yourself a note, please, to send me another copy?
I will.
Thanks.
Any other comments?
I just wanted to add that since CART is related to the land bank as a committee that we've formed and are participating in, that we should include on the list. There were the public survey and the other accomplishments and progress made there.
Thank you. Any other? Well, I think it's amazing. Honestly, I looked at that list and I thought the rest of us were all standing still, but you guys seem to move forward regardless of pandemic or what have you. For not being able to get together like you normally do, it's an astounding list of accomplishments. So many thanks to all of you for kind of hunkering down and getting it all done, despite. Yeah, it's just very impressive. Very grateful for that.
I do think it's a testimony to the self-starting capacity of our staff all the way, all the way through. Really, just got incredible people who get things done. They're not waiting to be told what to do. They've got their ideas, and we talk about stuff, and it gets done. It's great.
If I could, I would just add that, I think I probably speak for all the staff to say that we really appreciate the commission, all the work you all do, guidance, the support. So, you know, it's been a crazy year, but it's also been good and productive, and it's great to work for the land bank and to have you looking out for us. Thanks.
Our everybody's ability to adapt is what keeps us going.
Okay,
Good job.
so
Yeah, it's a very impressive list, and especially really we have such a small staff for what gets accomplished. So kudos to everyone.
I have one quick question specifically to Amanda, if she happens to have that, because I am curious about since the opening of the channel preserve, if the count, the trail counters are indicating anything different since it's officially opened versus when it was not open, but being accessed. I'm wondering if you've seen a change there.
Yeah, I pulled them at the end of November, I think. So almost a month of data since it's opened, and it's averaged about 5 visits a day. And much every time I've been there, there's been, maybe one or two cars, and I've encountered families and just really favorable reviews. People are really happy to be able to walk down to that beach. So that's been great to hear.
Yeah, that is good. That's great. And then one last comment I don't know if the commission has, maybe you all have, which would be great, but if you haven't spent much time on the revised website, I really encourage you to explore that a bit, because it is really pretty user-friendly, and having some of those documents related to public lands, kind of extra documents outside of they're not officially generated by us, but that Land Bank participated in, is great to have that available to the public. And kudos to Tanya she's got activity packets for each of the 3 main islands for families to use. And you might, if you haven't done it, Tanya, I haven't seen it, but I would encourage you to send that out on Facebook, because I think over the holidays, they've been looking for things to do with their kids all along since March, but those packets are really fun. I would maybe blast that out and remind people that those are there.
Good idea. It will be in the end of year, but I'll send it out till today's the last day of school for public school. So it's a good idea. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a beautiful job.
Orcus was done just as a kudos to Jenny. She put that one together, and so she took the heavy lifting for Orcus, but it was a nice partnership with her, Jenny DeGroot.
Oh, okay. Oh, great. Yeah, super fun. All right, so now we're going to work on next year, which is going to be a great year, people. We got about 11 days to put this one to bed, or whatever it is. So Lincoln, do you want to lead the discussion on setting goals? Or you guys probably have established some goals already, at least for stewards.
Well, we always have our goals. What my hope is with this conversation is that we can talk more about themes and general approach, and then we'll pull together our work plans for the year in January. But I would say, just in the general vein, we do have a significant amount of money in the Conservation Area Fund, and we do have a number of outstanding or potential projects to do. So I think it's probably important for us to move on those. We've been kind of fortunate to have some projects which have not been, it's not like we're competing and having to pay the highest dollar on these projects. For one reason or another, either we've got an owner who's just really wanting to work with us, or there's an issue with the property and it's not
Lincoln, we've lost you on audio.
You've lost me on
Oh, now
audio.
you're back.
Now I'm back.
Yeah. You left off at working with homeowners or property owners.
Okay, yeah, so we've been fortunate in that regard that we haven't had to actually go out and pay top dollar for things and try and keep up with this market. But we do have a number of properties out there that are kind of on our list. You've seen them, you've got the acquisition matrix. So you're aware of properties we've been talking about, but I do think it's going to be important for us to really do some good projects this year. Have the money to do it, we should do it.
And speaking of money, and it's the embarrassment of riches, of course, that we have brought in due to the robust real estate market. I'm going to be a broken record here again, and hope that we can find it within ourselves to share some of those riches with the stewardship endowment. Really, really, really want to stress the importance of building up that fund. Silence.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, I think it'll be something we should bring back for sure in financing if I think we decide to do that in January or February, but point well taken for the complexities of some of the projects we've already taken on this year and last year.
Yep.
So this is something
Oh, go
we
ahead.
decide, it's something we decide at the beginning of the year, not at the end of the year. If we want to bump up, that goes next year, we decide retroactive.
Well, we have already transferred the 500,000 that was budgeted for 2020 in December. So that will have happened.
Okay.
So I'll have to double check with the auditor, but I believe that we can then amend 2021. You know, as Lincoln said, it'll come up for review by the council in February or March. And it would be at that point that additional funds could go in. They would go in 2021 because they would be allocated for that year.
Well, I just think that, you know, being what, $1.5 million over budget on revenue, I think we should share a third of that. I think we should put another 500,000 in for 2020 or 2021. That's just what I'm gonna push for that.
You can bring that back in January or February. That would be a good idea.
I just wanted to put it on everybody's back burner.
Yeah, I think we can treat it as a property. I mean, we're going to be looking at properties or possible acquisitions, and it can be included in that mix.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that, Krista. I think that looking at the stewardship fund and looking at these prospective properties probably should occur at the same time, because putting a certain amount of money into stewardship may limit us in terms of acquisitions. So I think it's something that should be looked at the same time.
Yeah.
But in that same vein, limiting us on acquisitions, I mean, they go hand in hand, acquisitions and stewardship. We have to steward the land that we acquire. And we all know that with the current cash flow and projections that, you know, our stewardship fund needs more in it. Our stewardship, the endowment needs more capital in it. So anyway, I'll stop about that now, but I'm gonna pound the table on it in January and February.
We expect it.
Looking forward to that. Lincoln, do you have a specific structure for this discussion? Do you want to throw out some proposed themes? How would you like to?
You know, I don't really have a specific structure. I was thinking we could we could start with acquisition and maybe talk about what types of projects we're interested in doing. That does vary certainly by district. So, and it varies obviously by opportunity. But I know you all have been thinking about acquisitions of one type or another. So I thought it might be good to just throw that open for people to toss out some ideas beyond what we've got, or including what we've got.
Well, I do think we have to be careful though, because some of the acquisitions or some of the things we're looking at really aren't public. So it kind of makes it a little bit difficult to have that type of discussion other than in executive session.
So I was thinking, should we not have a review last year, end of year, or whenever our annual retreat was and themes developed? I haven't looked at that paperwork now in a while, but I'm wondering, did we follow through on certain themes that emerged? Do we need to revisit that? And even though we're not having an annual retreat, but feed in what we have already looked at and see if we need to make more progress on it.
I'd like to suggest a theme, and that would be to sort of maybe complete some of the things that we've been talking about in terms of shoring up borders of preserves, or adding to a preserve, or adding to the stewardship endowment, or in other words, kind of following through with the things that we've been wanting to do with regards to, I mean, I can think of a couple different preserves that, in the acquisition matrix that we've talked about that are, would help solve some problems, that would fill holes, so to speak, or just generally kind of complete some of the things that we've started. And maybe we can tie in a theme with coming out of this pandemic as well. I don't know, I'm thinking out loud here, but it seems to me that it's kind of a year, hopefully it's going to be a year of renewal, renewing relationships in person, hopefully, and those sorts of things. And maybe we can tie a theme into that somehow.
So I was thinking that we should separate this discussion into parts, one part being kind of operations and procedures, looking at issues or goals related to that. And then separately would be things about specific acquisitions, expansions, the types of things that you're talking about. If I could just bring up a few that have come up multiple times. One is communication. We made some strides and had a survey done and analysis of our communications to date. And I would like to see us get to the next step with a strategic communications plan and get it put down in writing, how we are going to communicate certain things. What is our procedure? I think we can get that to the next step. And if that's something our communication committee needs to get revamped and make a monthly meeting, we kind of need to move forward on that, because I think a lot of things that we run into are communications related. So I would like to see that as being a goal for 2021, that we shore up communications, but start it with a plan, an outline. That's one of my issues.
And Judy, I mean, excuse me, not Judy, Sandy, did you have, did you want to comment on our discussion about operational kind of policy?
Yeah,
just the general
that's
commission?
next on my list. I didn't know how many things I should throw out at once, but so communication plan is number one. I would also like to see us really make progress on getting some policies, written policies updated. I realize the manual is this thick, and it's probably too much to say the whole policy manual needs to be updated at once. But when I came on board as a commissioner and I was given the manual, read the manual, and I very much like to have things in writing to follow that you can fall back on. And a few things that I brought up, well, it says this in the manual, and I was, oh, we don't do it. That was created at the beginning and things have changed. And I'm not comfortable with that gray area. I really think that we need to have some, as much as possible, set policies. The communications plan could be one part of this. The hunting thing could be, and there's all different aspects that I think really need to get firmed up, that perhaps we can take one section at a time and update it that way. But I think it's good for incoming commissioners. It's good for the public that we can refer back to, well, here it is, here it's written in policy. So I think we should move that forward, starting with whatever the stickiest policies are. Now, I don't know that we ever firmed up this thing about how many, where the different commissioners by district. I think we should decide how the positions are going to be advertised and when, and how many commissioners for each district. I know it's somewhat in there, but then there was a controversy over that, and we had multiple discussions, and I don't really know where it landed. But whenever we do have something like that that does come up that we discuss and it gets, I think it needs to get codified in a policy manual. So.
Any other themes or topics? I'm just gonna ask each of the commissioners if they want to add to this list. So if you want to give me, if you have anything else on there, Sandy, as thoughts that you've been mulling over.
Those are my two biggies, really. The other things can kind of fall into those two big buckets.
Okay.
Krista?
Miles? Oh, sorry. Brian?
If I may, I'd like to tailgate on Sandy's comments and go back to the first unanswered question that she raised. Pardon me. And say that I think it would be a good starting point in looking at next year's program to review our aspirations from last year's retreat. We haven't really done that, and there are a number of things that I think are still relevant, but maybe changed by our circumstances. And one in particular I'm thinking about is we talked about better and more direct outreach to each of our communities, that is each of our islands, possibly by having some kind of a public forum at least once during the year on each island, to see just what people wanted to tell us, to basically a listening session and looking for opportunities to serve those needs. Everything that I think about going forward is really related to our outreach community and ultimately REIT reauthorization. And it occurs to me that because of our COVID restrictions and our new video meeting format, maybe we have some opportunities that we haven't really realized to get more people, more participation. I mean, we have, let's see, I'm counting 25 people at this meeting, which includes commission and staff. So not that many members of the public. Seems to me we have an opportunity to do better at outreach at our meetings, and that would be important.
Okay, do you have any other items that rise to the top for you, since you're on the mic now, if you want to run through your list?
That's all I have for now, Krista. Thanks.
Miles?
Yes, I mean, it's kind of related to outreach and thinking about the role land bank plays in public lands and public land access for people in the county, and thinking about whether or not we want to take on a role as having programs, not just having land available, but also whether we are either partnering or directly organizing programs for people on public lands, the preserves, that connect people to this area, whether it's educational, recreational, whatever. So that's just a broad question, which I think would address some of what Brian said about outreach and getting people involved and closer to the land bank. And then a second issue would just be, this is, I don't know if this is really how it ties in, but just thinking about relating to our matrix that we have for looking at property value when we're looking at a new possible purchase. And I'm interested in the idea of upgrading that to make it, we have a lot of tools now. There's a lot of like GIS, mapping, parcel data that could be integrated into sort of a new way of evaluating sort of the conservation value of lands, parcels throughout the county. And it might be something that the county itself will be interested in doing, just so that we can prioritize. We do this kind of on the fly as properties come up opportunistically, because that's how properties come up. But if we had a way of prioritizing ahead of time and having our target areas and saying, well, we really are looking for this, I think, and then maybe even announcing that, and maybe you get a private donor come up occasionally that could help that out. So that's just the second thing, is kind of updating our matrix system for evaluating conservation value.
Great. David?
I think that Brian and Sandy really hit things that are important to me. How we communicate with the public, and diligently doing that. And I think that the idea of some kind of public forum where we're all there and the public is invited, I know that's difficult to maybe do right now, and it may or may not work as a Zoom meeting. It might work great that way, but really getting out there and hearing what people think and feel and want is very important. And I'd like to see more of that. And I recognize that it's a big, it's a big work generating request to say, okay, well, let's put on a public forum and let's travel to different islands to do it. But I think it's important to do that.
Any other, would you like to weigh in on the other priorities that have been mentioned?
I think we should certainly revisit the retreat from last year and look at what came up and whether we've addressed that this year. Yeah, on the acquisition side, I mean, I feel real comfortable with Lincoln's leadership on that and how we're moving forward there. I think he's the guy that has the overarching sense of what we're doing with acquisitions and what's going to make sense. It's been interesting to me as still the newest commissioner, and looking at what kinds of acquisitions come available and how we evaluate them. It's a challenging thing, but I think that we're in good hands with how that's being handled right now. I mean, I feel very comfortable with the information that comes to me from Lincoln, and I've had conversations with him about many of these things, and I don't see a big issue there. I think it's it's going to be challenging going forward. There's a lot that seems urgent. There's a lot that would be great to do. All of it seems very expensive. All of it is, any purchase is a significant commitment of future stewardship funds and obligations. So, but I like how
as
it's
a relatively
proceeding
new
at this point.
commissioner, how do you feel, what weight would you put on updating the kind of the policy procedure manual for commissioners to help get them oriented and keep them kind of understanding their role in governance versus administration, that type of thing? Would a review be helpful?
Yeah, sure. I think it would.
That was easy.
I mean, I think there's more that could be done. We have these meetings. There's a set time for them. They happen and then they're over for a month. We haven't really filled in between meetings with any particular special content. We could certainly do that. I would like that. We could have a meeting devoted to looking at the manual and looking at what's in it and going over it in detail. I think that would, recognizing that that's another commitment everybody's time, but that could be a valuable one.
Yeah, we haven't used that very often. Okay. Thank you for that. Are you a vote on the reviewing the endowment amount? I'm just trying to get a sense of how these topics that are being raised, how much traction they're getting with other commissioners.
Well, I mean, Jim suggested another $500,000, and I felt like that's kind of low based on my basic sense of kind of the scale of what needs to happen in stewardship. And I mean, I would put a bunch of money aside is what I would do in this position. It's going to be interesting to see how that discussion proceeds next year.
Okay. Doug?
I think when I'm looking at the 2021 goals, I'm looking back at how on this island, the opening of Zylstra created so much interest in many people who had not even been involved with land bank or land bank properties. And I think that during this period of time of COVID and the pandemic, and we're going to be dealing with these issues for a number of months, what I'd like to see in terms of a communication is something like a real effort to open Beaverton Marsh, get a trail to Beaverton Marsh. It's located, very close to the town of Friday Harbor. I think it could have a impact similar to what Zylstra's had. And so I think one of our goals ought to be is looking at properties that we can either improve on or open more and advertise to get people out during this unusual period of time. So that would be, from my standpoint, a significant goal for 2021.
Anything else? Are you in support of these others that have been mentioned? In terms of the matrix, or how do you feel about reviewing the endowment amount? How do you feel about reviewing the commissioner's manual?
I'm in agreement on reviewing the commissioner's manual. I think that we can certainly make some improvements there. As far as the endowment amount, we decided that we're going to put that discussion off until the next meeting. I think it's something that we ought to at least every year, if not every 6 months, take a review of and see where we are. So I think that that's important. I think that Sandy raised some really good procedural issues that I think that we ought to take a look at.
Okay. Jim?
I think I've pretty much stated my thoughts on this. I think I don't know. I agree with all the items that have been brought up really for next year. I don't know how they all fit into any particular theme, but you know, we have so much uncertainty still, you know, that we need to keep that in mind and be nimble. But I think that stewardship is, of course, obviously important to me in the long term, and balancing that out with acquisitions in a good, smart way is important. As far as the manual is concerned, yeah, I think it's always good to review things periodically. Quite frankly, I think I have to find my notebook first. I remember Judy used to give us, you know, updates and inserts and things like that to put into the notebooks. And, you know, not that she hasn't been super busy, but we haven't really done that in a while. So I think probably to review those things is a good idea. But all in all, you know, let's not fix something that ain't broken. I think, you know, the staff's been doing an amazing job. The commissioners are all engaged, and you know, let's count our blessings there for sure.
Brian, did you have anything else going back? Do you want to?
No, not at this point, Krista. I think all of the points that have been raised are important, and I agree moving forward. Thanks.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead, Sandy.
I just wanted to ask if I found an old document. I don't know if it's the right one, but if staff could dig out our goals and action items that we came out of our retreat last year, so we can review what was on our plate and see what we addressed and what we didn't address. I think that would be, I see a few things on here that we haven't addressed yet. So I think that would be helpful, in looking at our goals for next year would be to review where we were this time last year as well.
I just forwarded that to Lincoln.
Yeah.
Do you want to bring it to the screen, Lincoln, or do you want me to email it to everyone?
I just forwarded it to everyone.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would recommend that. So normally we would have have had a retreat either in October or November, and that document would have come up and we would have gone through that to see
Right.
what was accomplished and what was outstanding. So we haven't been in a position to have that retreat. So I guess I would suggest that it come back in January. We can digest it. Everyone's gotten the update or now received it, so it's at the top of your email inbox instead of somewhere else. So maybe we could bring that back for a discussion in January, review that and kind of look at some of the topics that have come up now today and see how they fit in with what we already had on the table and maybe set an kind of tighten up that document for the new year in January if people are comfortable with that.
So we have an hour left in this meeting. Do we, in looking at the agenda, don't we have an hour left to discuss the 2021 goals? I know we moved, I'm not.
We do in terms of review. In terms of, sorry, my phone's gonna go off for a minute here. We do, whether or not everyone feels comfortable looking at that document that they just received in their inbox to review it. I'm open to anything. I just don't want to pressure people to me making decisions having not read that document now for several months. So that's up to the commission. I'm happy to have people take a moment and look at the document that Lincoln just sent out if they want to work on something right now or not.
Krista?
I'm easy.
Right. I would suggest
Brian?
that rather than do that on the hoof, one of the important features and opportunities of our retreats is that they tend to be a little bit better attended than most of our meetings. And in the spirit of outreach that we discussed earlier, we might think about having an online retreat to discuss some of those things, possibly early next year. And I'd just like to know what other commissioners think of that idea.
I like that idea. Would it be more of a public engagement? You know, our retreat has been discussion amongst the staff and commissioners. Are you suggesting it would be not just attended by the public, but could be a public engagement opportunity?
Yeah, that was my thought, Sandy. Yeah.
Any other thoughts on that particular structure for a retreat, actually holding a retreat? And that would change it substantially. We have not had active public participation in our retreats. People are welcome to attend, they're open. But in terms of setting, I just don't have that recollection that we've had a huge turnout that people participate in setting the goals for the commission. I'm not against it, but I'm just not, I don't think that we've actually quite mixed it that way.
I guess I would say that those are different things. The retreat really is an opportunity for that commission to think about what's happened over the course of the year and think about what's to come. If we're talking about public involvement, we discuss how to do public involvement all the time, and that's definitely one of the things that I think has gone awry a bit this year, that we did talk about communications and having community meetings and things like that, and obviously we haven't found our way around this particular format. It might be an opportunity in that we can do a community meeting for each island on Zoom, and it's much easier for people to attend. Now, having said that, I don't know if anyone's been part of one of these Zoom public or community type meetings and seen it work successfully. If that's the case, it would definitely be good to know. I don't know, so has anyone participated in a forum where you've had, 50 or 60 people on Zoom?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they have, they've done it here a number of times through the library. The Lopez Library has, since COVID hit, they've had what they're calling the Village Square, and they've been kind of town halls. They are controlled from the standpoint of it's not a free for all, that everyone's open to has an open mic and is free to discuss. But they do, they generally have a panel of, set number of people, whether it would be our commission talking. It allows the public to hear the reports and updates on whatever the particular topic is, and then they can submit. There's a Q&A portion of the Zoom structure to allow for questions to be submitted that can be addressed during the broadcast. It requires a little higher functioning Zoom membership or subscription, because you can increase the numbers. Orcas just had a town hall last night on their public hospital district that exceeded, I think they had enough for 100 people, and they had 125 sign up. Our library has a subscription that allows for 500 people to participate. But it is pretty controlled, and because it is, it's kind of chasing a ton of cats if you're trying to run a meeting like that, but it provides some structure. And if we have an agenda with what's going to be presented, then I've seen it work really pretty successfully. And I think my concern right now is that people are somewhere between being totally exhausted with Zoom meetings and finally figuring out how to participate in a Zoom meeting. So it just depends on how many you've been doing in the past 8 months. But it certainly gives a a way to reach out to people easier than actually having them try to get to Friday Harbor for a public, a meeting in person. There are more people participating in meetings because they can just get on and they don't have to ride the ferry. They don't have to, their biggest hurdle is figuring out how to run the Zoom app.
Krista, just to add to that, I attended, as I mentioned, the Orcas Public Healthcare District meeting last night. And what they did with their 100+ people was questions and comments were submitted via chat through the moderator, and it worked very smoothly. It was great.
Yeah, exactly.
Having said that, I don't disagree with Lincoln that it may be a different kind of format, and we should think it through. I was kind of thinking on my feet, and that's why I put the question out there.
Well, I think it is, and so I guess we could discuss a number of these topics, but so I guess I need to know how people feel about looking at the retreat summary from last year that Lincoln just sent us. Do we want to take the time now to go through that and check off what action items have been accomplished? Do we want to take between now and January to look at it and bring it back as a priority discussion for the January meeting? How are people feeling about that? Because we have time, we can talk for another hour. I just want to make sure we're talking constructively and people feel like they're comfortable participating.
I would prefer to put it off. In fact, I have not received it from Lincoln yet. I happen to have a very lousy email. So my preference is to put it off. Also, I'm getting on the screen messages repeatedly from a Kathy Morris, and it pops up, and it's kind of disconcerting to see messages from somebody pop up while somebody else is speaking.
Yeah, we're not set up. We should have set it up. That's kind of having like an open mic for public comment, and we can structure that differently in the future. I think, Tanya, there's a toggle or something that we can mark that the chat room isn't open like that, because in a regular meeting, the public wouldn't be able to pop up and have conversations as the commission is deliberating or discussing.
I would appreciate that.
I would just, they'll disappear, or you can just, I'm trying to ignore them. I'm not trying to ignore you, Kathy, but I'm just trying to maintain the structure of a regular meeting, which is not to engage and take input repeatedly from the public. How does everybody else feel about, I personally would like to digest the document, because I see there's a lot of action items, and it would take me some time to read through those to figure out what we've done and what we haven't done.
Right, I agree with that.
Okay, so I think, is that okay, Sandy? I know you want to move forward, and I know we have time, but I'm just not, personally, it sounds like I'm not comfortable trying to get into the meat of it without having a chance to actually read that.
That's fine. Maybe what we could come to discuss and come to a decision on is what kind of public forum, online, Zoom, open house, town hall, whatever you want to call it, do we want to have? Are we going to have it? Do we want to have it? What format and when? Just so that we don't keep kicking it down the road. I think we're all in agreement. We like the idea. You've said it has worked well. We're looking for more engagement opportunities, and maybe it would help us formulate a direction of what our priorities could be.
I think we have at prior meetings, there was agreement, and it was kind of, I thought, sent back to island commissioners to approach their personal community in their own way. So I think that it doesn't necessarily need board approval. You and Brian can decide how you would like to engage the Orcas people, and if it requires, the question would be financially whether we go ahead and buy a different type of a Zoom application. But I think Orcas and San Juan and Lopez can approach their community in whatever way they would choose to do so. I think we have agreed on a couple of occasions that island commissioners should be going ahead and doing that.
So I don't recall that we agreed to do that. I know we have talked about different options, but this would be something where I would personally like to see in a strategic action plan that says within the year, there shall be 3 countywide public Zoom meetings. Also, once a quarter, commissioners shall hold a such and such town hall, however we decide it, so that it's, I'm not comfortable with the free for all, like, yeah, if you want to do that, you do that. I'd really like to see it more structured and consistent countywide. And I think that with the Zoom, we actually have an opportunity that won't be an opportunity maybe in the future so much. I don't know, maybe we'll use it more to be able to engage countywide, whereas in person would for sure, when we're able to do those, would be more targeted to a particular district. So I guess I'd like to come to kind of some consensus or conclusion. Are we going to move forward and organize something, a Zoom meeting countywide? And is it too soon with CART having their meeting in January? Is that overkill? Should we shoot for a different month?
I think that since we can't really predict the next time a public meeting in person is going to be possible, we should plan on doing it online. And of the maybe 3 or 4 large Zoom meetings I've been in, the skill of the person running it is everything in terms of keeping it from going off the rails. I think probably, I mean, my interest would be in hearing from as many different people in the community as possible about what they think about whatever to do with the land bank. So we'd have to look at the software platform we need, and I don't have any sense of that. It's I'm sure there are different licenses for different numbers of people. Whether the county has something already that we could use, I don't know. But I think we should put it out there fairly soon, certainly in the spring at the latest. And we have to figure out who's going to run it and how we're going to keep it on track and get useful information from it. I would far prefer to do it in person, but I just don't think that's going to be, certainly the first half of next year, that's probably off the table.
I'm very much in favor of, instead of having one county-wide meeting, have it broken up into the different islands. I just think it would make it easier to connect with the people on your own island, and they're going to be probably talking about the issues that they're most faced with, and so it makes it more personal and more relevant. And also the size will be easier to manage too, like the breakout rooms that Kathy mentioned are an easy way to kind of have conversation where people get to comment and have an actual discussion, as opposed, on Zoom, the limitation to Zoom is that only one person at a time can talk. So if you have 200 people, it's a lot of, one-liners as opposed to actual conversation. So the smaller the whole group, the more chance there is to actually have a discussion. So I'm just in favor of making it an island conversation that's organized by the commissioners in that area rather than a whole countywide talk.
Brian or Jim? Go ahead, Lincoln.
I would just say that I participated in a lot of Zoom meetings, certainly. Mostly it's been at kind of the board level for the Washington Wildlife and Recreation Coalition and things like that, where that's worked pretty well when you've got 30, 40 people maybe. And the breakout rooms are a good feature. It depends on what you're after. So for example, I could see that working pretty well when we're doing a public meeting about a preserve management plan, because what we do now is have a presentation and then that's followed up by putting people at different tables so that that table can have conversations about whatever they want to talk about. So I think that would work well with a Zoom format. To do breakout rooms, I think you need to know what it is you're after, really, before you do it.
So we're kind of straddling goal setting and operational details on a certain topic. So I just want to state that because I'm going to try to redirect some of this. So what I'm hearing is, so far, the themes that have come out in the discussion, they're actually planning themes, would be a review and discussion about the appropriate amount for the endowment. I'm looking at hearing that we're looking at how our acquisition, are prioritizing acquisition projects, kind of a review of that, possibly most significantly with just looking at ways we might be able to update the data that we collect. As Miles mentioned, I have to say, you know, Lincoln does give us, he has given us not in the too distant past, a review of all the overlaying agencies and different people, partnerships that we have in the county and how their lands overlap and connect. And we've had that discussion. I think it's worth having on an annual basis just to refresh and as things change. But I think we do and have done that in the past. We're looking at the topic of outreach and communication in terms of just how we're getting details out to the public, and then the warm and fuzzy outreach in terms of how we're really getting people to feel connected to the lands. And so I think I'm hearing communication as a theme, and then just kind of operational stuff that falls to the commission, not operation or procedures for the staff or administration, but really how we function as a commission. And I think that's, you know, I think that's a worthwhile thing just to review, because we should be able to look to how we do things and have an understanding of how this commission operates. So, and then the review of the retreat notes I've already mentioned, we usually would have done this by now. So that I think can come back. So that's kind of what I'm hearing out there. If there's anything else that I didn't touch on, because I'm just kind of looking at those areas and seeing how they might dovetail in with what we did look at for last year. And I'm confident there's some recurring themes that will continue. And then, so that's what I'm hearing now. And then maybe Lincoln and I can look at that, or Sandy and Lincoln get to look at it in January, how that's going to come back to the commission. But would you like to proceed now with just staying with the specifics of how we're going to communicate in the short term? We're talking about, you know, looking at Zoom, looking at some kind of the software, etc. Do we need to talk more? I would concur with Miles. I would prefer to see, because Lopez has done it in the past, where we have had meetings just with our community. Tim Clark was really good about doing that on a pretty regular basis, and I would support doing that before we open it up to a county-wide participation, because it gives a better, the local commissioners a better understanding of what their island is looking at, and kind of gives a little, it's just easier to manage discussion, I guess. So how do we feel about any more details about that communication specific?
What if we kick this to the communication and outreach committee? Maybe we need to reconvene that and look at this aspect as part of the strategic communications plan. And maybe the first thing we need to do is get our plan and maybe make a goal that within the first quarter of the year, we have that communications plan completed and we can implement it. What do you think about that? the communication committee meets on to review these different topics and comes back with recommendations on the plan, presents it to the commission, and the commission says, yes, we like this plan, let's do the plan, and then we follow the plan.
I have a question about, was there, about retreats, was there a discussion that I missed or have forgotten about why we didn't do a Zoom retreat this year?
Yeah, I don't remember it coming.
Go ahead, Lincoln.
Yeah, I think there was just some reluctance to do a retreat, quote unquote. I did talk to our facilitator about it. He was he would have done that. Was not terribly thrilled about that idea, frankly. So it kind of, the sense I got from you all was probably we should just hold off. I never got a firm commitment from people saying, yeah, we should definitely do a retreat this year via Zoom.
Okay.
Any other comments about, I would agree, Sandy, we can send it to the Outreach Communication Committee. I think I see some of the discussion of this really splitting that committee and getting two different groups working on it, because one is really policy, procedure, operational type stuff, and the other was outreach and connecting with community. And I think they overlap, but there is, it might help that committee if we don't dump everything onto them as a global project, but we can have that discussion at the committee level and then see where that goes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I see that the policy manual update is, yes, there's some overlap, but I would agree, I wouldn't task the communication and outreach committee with it. I think that's a separate work group.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm at a bit of a loss as to how to proceed now. Are there other topics related to goal setting or 2021 that people would like to have discussed at this point? You guys are so great. It's like pulling teeth. This is my last meeting and you're just not giving me anything.
Well,
okay.
there's just so much uncertainty.
I know.
In the world and for us, and don't beat yourself up about it, or don't anybody beat yourself up about it. I think we have uncertainty, professionally and personally, and it's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Then I'm going to consider that we have enough discussion material to move off that topic. Is everybody okay with that? Great. Future agenda items. I think we just got a bunch of them. Don't say anything. No, seriously, if there's other future agenda items that you think should come back, we do have a list of those and we can look at that also.
Well, I have a question about the acquisition matrix where Lincoln disseminated that to the commission and on a confidential basis. And are we planning on any kind of an executive session about that for January?
Probably a good idea.
Yeah, that'd be good. Anything else?
Lincoln, are we planning, I don't have the agenda in front of me, are we planning to discuss any of these projects today?
We did not put an executive session on this agenda. It's possible we could do that if you all wanted to, although I'm not I don't know what the rules are about putting that in the agenda and then
Probably,
not having
I
it.
would say that's not a good idea.
no, okay.
Yeah. It's a surprise and it shouldn't, I don't think that's, yeah. Nor should it be a standing item on an agenda. It just needs to come up as we see a need. So I think just in the spirit of transparency, we not do that.
Well, as long as there's nothing that Lincoln needs direction on or action on at this meeting.
True.
And that was going to be my point also, is Lincoln, do you feel that there is anything that you need guidance on?
Well, I think, that we haven't made commitments on specific projects. And so I think I need to really have that clear, but I don't see that as being a huge issue in January. One that has been kind of left hanging is the new one on Orcas, the shoreline one. And so I don't think we've had enough discussion about that, but it's definitely something we need to hash through. Absolutely, at the January meeting. If Sandy, do you think that we can do that? Is that time enough to have that conversation?
I think that the owner, I don't know if you got my email update, but is working through some other things, not chomping at the bit to get it on the market, but is looking for a direction but knows things move slowly. If I say that we're doing our background research and it will be formally discussed at the January meeting, then we can do that. It's not on the executive session, so we can't talk about it, so.
Well, that would be great. If there's not, if it can wait until January, then we'll do that and include it on the agenda. Okay. That's it. Okay. No, any good jokes? No. Oh, Erin, did you have a question? Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to follow up on I appreciated the comment about the side chat. That's pretty difficult for me attention span wise, but I did see that there was a comment posted about our education and outreach by Jennifer, and I think she's off the call now, but wanted to assure you that I'll follow up with her about that.
Great. I didn't read that, so thank you. Okay, I would make this your last chance, people. I'm going to make a last comment. If you haven't talked to her senior, maybe you have, but there was a great call the other day honoring Marcia, our BLM manager, who's left this office and is now going to be working through a Denver office. And anyway, if you see her or you're in contact with her, you express your appreciation. She did a great job. If you attended that meeting, oh my gosh, it was a love fest for her. It was really, she's done so much and been involved with so many people. And for someone who just moved here not too very long ago, she's done such a great job. And yeah, it was a powerful, her Skeet, her colleague, who is now the one person show for BLM, he was managing the meeting, and halfway through he just stopped everything and he said you people have really gotten to the emotional depths on a Zoom meeting. I've never attended a meeting that felt like we were all in the same room. It was actually pretty remarkable. It was a testament to her. So anyway, if you're in touch, she's around here till April, kind of telecommuting and whatnot. So just so you know.
Well, since we're giving a tribute to people, I want to say thanks to Krista too for doing an excellent job as chair. I think you've taken us through some tough little spots there and handled it really well with grace and given people a chance to express themselves, and you've kept us on track. And yeah, I think you've done an outstanding job. So thanks for doing that.
I'll second that emotion.
Thank you.
I will
Thank you.
third that emotion.
Great. That's what comes from being a middle child.
Fourth.
It's all about keeping the peace.
Well, I'm an only child, so it's going to go off the rails. I don't know.
Oh, good. Excellent. I'm going to be right there with you. We'll go together. It'll be fine. Okay, that's all I have. So I hope everyone stays healthy and helps other people stay healthy. Have a great holiday. I invested in 5 down comforters for outside deck seating with friends, so I'm not going to let the sub-zero temperatures keep us from gathering. So nice to spend 2 years being your chair too. It's been a pleasure. That's
Thank you,
it.
Krista.
That's all we have.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Krista.
Yeah, have a good holiday, you guys.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you
to
all.
Happy trails.
Ah,
Oh, one more thing. What, Sandy? You're muted. I can't unmute you.
You know, the old Columbo, just one more thing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
So since we have this time allocated, what do you think about a couple of people from the communications committee? Do you have any brain power left to stay on Zoom to discuss some of those things?
I can stay. I have a meeting at 1.
But
I
if
can
you're,
give you till 11:30.
Tanya, it wouldn't be like a formal, okay, this, and this, but it would just be moving some of these concepts forward, or at least deciding when we're going to have our next meeting or not, or we can just sign off. That's throwing it out there. What do you think, Tanya?
I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, so whoever can stay on, let's stay on for 15 minutes and kind of hammer out a couple details for the committee. I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Goodbye.
All right, so this meeting is adjourned as of 10:53.
Thanks.
Later, Gators.
I'm gonna email. Marcia was trying to get into the meeting now.
I know she's been texting me and she goes, I need to talk to you. And I said, I'm in a land bank meeting. And she's like, oh, I wanted to attend that meeting. Too late, baby. So
Yeah.
Lincoln, you were on that call for her. That was outstanding to hear the things that people said about her.
Yeah, it was great. It's really,
It was really,
I mean, part of that is Lopez. You know, you guys do things like that really well, but
yeah, it's a love fest.
yeah, really.
Well, some of them were BLM people, and there were some, people, colleagues that she worked with. There was that one gal who said she just wanted to point out that how this monument and this office and this project has gone is not how most federal projects go. And she attributed almost all of that to Marcia. And, there were a number of people that worked on that project, but really it was